Right, you lot, let's talk Villa. And Villa have just announced 3 signings yesterday in the same day, the 1st of July. Enzo Valencia, video right there. Samuel Illing Jr., video right there. And one that perhaps Villa fans had forgotten about. It was agreed a long time ago, but now it is all official, and that is Mustafa Barkley. He went through his career resurgence at Luton last year, where he's literally turned his fortunes around and is now playing Champions League football for Aston Villa, or at least will be at Villa Park next season. He is now in the prime of his career, 30 years of age, or 31. You'll have to forgive me if I'm a few months out, but we're going to be looking at what that signing means for Villa. I've done previous videos on him, I'll pop it up here, where I have defended this as a very smart signing. I think the compensation has worked out at around £5 million for a player of his calibre, and when I say his calibre, we're going to get into that. I've got into that in the previous videos where we've done his sort of stats. I'm going to go through some different stats than I have done before, and I'm going to compare him against Douglas Luiz until ultimately going through how he fits into our team and why I think it is a very good and shrewd signing for the amount of money that we have paid for him. So without further ado, let's get into it. If you are enjoying the content, leave a like, subscribe for all the latest and greatest Aston Villa content on YouTube. Let's talk about Ross Barkley, our new £5 million centre mid. And first, we are going to throw it back old school, as you can see on the screen, with a screen recording from my phone. And it's going to be about this article from The Athletic, obviously a well-renowned footballing newspaper or online newspaper in England, which say that Aston Villa are getting Ross Barkley 2.0, and it looks like smart business. Now, I read this whilst I was doing my research for this video. I'm a big fan of the Ross Barkley signing as it is, and I want to highlight a few points that they make in this video. Sorry, in this article. On to this season for Luton. Now, importantly, they say the amount of minutes he played, 2,618, the third most for a Luton outfield player. Now, the thing that has stumbled Ross Barkley throughout his career has been injuries. We all know that. He's struggled even since his Everton days, but especially at Chelsea with injuries, and it's held him back. He seems to have beaten that. He looks physically a lot bigger than he did before, and he looks like he is ready to take on the Premier League and the Champions League with Aston Villa. So that's a very good thing to firstly point out, is the fact that he does look fresh, fit and healthy. Now, we go down here to his heat map. As you can see on the screen, I might highlight it in a little bit more detail, but he played a lot deeper for Luton last season. You can see his heat map for 2018 to 19 Chelsea is predominantly sort of like a centre mid, but almost playing out on the left further up the pitch. 2019 to 2020 playing much more of almost a number 10 role. For Aston Villa in that loan season 2020 to 2021, again we were playing him predominantly out on kind of like the left mid or centre mid cam, but playing further forward in between the opposition's 18-yard box and the halfway line. For Luton, as you can see, it's a lot more spread just in between his own 18-yard box, the halfway line, and then those bursts forward into the opposition sort of middle part of that as well, again between their 18-yard box and their halfway line. Now, that new role has allowed him to flourish, I think, and really highlight some of his best attributes as he's matured as a footballer, as we get on to now. They mention here, and it's a good point to mention, he was playing for Luton, who ultimately did get relegated, and they only had 41% possession on average last season. But then you go across to his statistics, only 31% were better than him at carrying the ball into the opposition's final third. So breaking through those lines, receiving the ball deep, something that Villa do a lot, and we're going to get onto a little bit later, and then bursting through, 1.68 per 90 minutes. Again, they mention here in a couple of pictures, as you can see there, from their progressive passes forward out to Alfie Doherty, who we know was an absolute revelation for Luton last season. Again here, he ranked in the top 93rd percentile for switches of play per 90, something that Villa again do when we're building our possession from the back. I mean, again, they mentioned Douglas Luiz to Juventus. We don't need to talk about it anymore. Anyway, top 21st percentile for midfielders in Europe's Big Five leagues for key passes per 90. That is a very, very impressive stat, 1.51 per 90, and top 16th percentile for shot creating actions, creating over 3.5 shots in every 90 minutes of football. When you're feeding Ollie Watkins and not Carlton Morris, I think his assists have a good chance of going up here. Again, only 3% of midfielders in Europe's Big 5 leagues took more shots than him, and with just 7% putting more on targets. I feel like he could have got way more goals than just the 5 that he did eventually end up getting. And we go down here again, 6.91 ball recoveries. That's the top 12th percentile. Again, that's across Europe's top 5 leagues. And again, there they've mentioned his pressing. As I zoom into that as well, playing in a team that's a high press. Obviously, Villa sit off a little bit more, but he obviously, and just showing it, he has the energy. He's got the legs for it now. I'm really, really excited about this signing. Again, they mentioned Luton playing deep. He contributed to his low numbers for tackles. Regardless, he still had the 5th most tackles, 47, and joint 4th most interceptions in Luton's team. And it ends up there, and I want to just highlight that. And I've highlighted a lot in this article, and we're going to go over some of his stats in a little bit more detail. But this deal feels like smart business, and I, my friends, think it is. So now, as you can see on the screen, we've gone to footy stats. I've done Ross Barkley's foot mob again. That is in another video. You can find it on the channel, and I will link it down below. But we see this season 32 appearances in the Premier League, 5 goals, 4 assists, 4 appearances and 2 assists in the FA Cup, and then 1 appearance in the League Cup. His goals per 90 put him in the top 30th percentile. He's also in the top 30th percentile for assists per 90, goals and assists per 90, XG and XA per 90. So all very, very good stats, as you can see there. Now, there are a few stats that I would just like to highlight to you guys, again, about Ross Barkley and why he is a very, very good signing for just £5 million for Aston Villa. And there we go, shots taken, top 20th percentile, in the top 8th percentile for shots off target, which is, to me, yes, you could look at it as a negative stat, but I look at it as he's willing to put himself in those positions and take those shots, and sometimes you need that in a team. But then you also look at the stat right underneath it, hit the woodwork 3 times, and that is in the top 10th percentile in terms of hitting it per 90. Now we move down again, key passes, top 20th percentile. Again, this is in the Premier League. Nearly top 20th percentile for expected assists as well, as we've gone through a little bit earlier. Cross completion rate, top 20th percentile again. And then we talked about in the Athletic article that we've just gone through, the fact that he is so good at carrying the ball and progressing it into the opposition's final third. That is just highlighted here. Dribbles and successful dribbles, top 10th percentile and top 4th percentile, in the top 4% for successful dribbles per 90 in the Premier League last season. He was Luton's focal point at transitioning from defence to attack. And let's not forget, Luton actually done alright in terms of attacking last season. They gave a lot of top clubs really tough games and got a lot of goals as well. If we scroll down here to his defending stats, nearly in the top 10th percentile for ground duels won, nearly 7 per 90. Ground duels nearly in the top 15th percentile there. Aerial duels as well, doing all right for that as well. I think I forget that Ross Barkley is actually a decent height. A goal every 524 minutes, assist every 656 as well. Look, goal rank, assist rank. We're not too worried about all of that good stuff. The main point that I'm trying to make is he is decent. But how does he compare to Douglas Luiz? We're back to the Squawker player comparison, and first of all, by no means am I saying that he is our Douglas Luiz replacement. I still think there's a big signing to be had out there, but I just thought it'd be interesting to compare their stats and see how they compared last season. Obviously, Douglas Luiz played more games, got more minutes. That's fine. We already know Ross Barkley's taken more shots. He had more shots on target and hit the woodwork more. Douglas Luiz does pip him for goals and conversion rates. Obviously, he did score a fair amount of penalties last season for us, Douglas Luiz, and he got 1 more assist. Created only 9 more chances than Ross Barkley, but that is from nearly 500 more passes. Obviously, Aston Villa are a team that had the ball a lot more than Luton, so we have to take that into consideration. Again, pass accuracy as well, only 5% above, and this is a player that we've just sold for nearly 50 million. The less said about that, the better, but still 50 million to 5 million. You can see why it's a bit of shrewd business. Again, Ross Barkley with the better crossing accuracy. In terms of through balls, Douglas Luiz does absolutely dwarf him. But then in forward passes, again, we've spoken about how Ross Barkley is brilliant at progressing the ball from that defensive third through the middle third into the final third of the opposition, and he did actually have more forward passes than Douglas Luiz. Obviously Douglas Luiz had more backwards and sideways passes, so again, just something to think about. Made less tackles but had a better take on success ratio, more ground duels won by over 20, more clearances, interceptions, ball recoveries and blocked shots. So in terms of defensive actions, was a lot better than Douglas Luiz. Clearly Douglas Luiz, he's going to pip him in a lot of these categories, especially with the ball at his feet. We know Douglas Luiz was an absolute wizard, but actually in terms of overall and in terms of the amount of money we paid, I just thought it'd be interesting to show you how he compared up to Douglas Luiz, a player that we all think was absolutely world class. So what are my overall thoughts, feelings, opinions on the Ross Barkley deal? Look, £5 million for Ross Barkley after the season that he has just had at Luton, where I've said it before, I'll say it again, he was in contention. A lot of the sort of, you watch Saturday Social, the pundits, etc., etc. A lot of them were saying he might have been in for a shout with England call up for maybe the friendlies before the Euros, in contention for that Euro squad. Maybe he was the type of player we were missing. Maybe he has been the type of player that we were missing, judging on our performances so far in the tournament. I think this, again, like that Athletic article said, I couldn't have said it better, we're getting Ross Barkley 2.0. I saw Luton tweet out, thanks for everything, Ross, the place where you fell in love with football again. And I really think that Ross Barkley has got his footballing spark back. I think he was absolutely brilliant at Luton last season. I thought when we played Luton, he was fantastic against us. I watched Luton play some of the bigger clubs in the Premier League when they got onto Sky Sports, and I thought he was very, very good against those clubs as well. His ability to transition defence to attack is nothing short of brilliant. How do I see him fitting in to the Aston Villa team this season? If we move over to my online tactics board, I love it. So as you can see on the screen, like I said, we're going to pop him in here. We're going to say McGinn's playing out on the left, just for argument's sake. It might be Rodgers, it might be Jacob Ramsey. So I'm popping him next to Kamara. Now, we did play a lot last season. Luiz and Kamara would technically line up in what you'd call a 4-4-2 double six. So almost two holding midfielders, but obviously Luiz had the freedom to roam, which is what I could see Ross Barkley doing. Now, we all know, when we're defending or when we get the ball and we're looking to play out from the back, all of our players will drop in a little bit deeper. Bailey usually will hug out a bit wider. Kamara will drop into a hole, and then so will Barkley. McGinn will be there. Bailey will be there. Putting Ramsey as the split striker for this, and then Watkins as well. So say we're defending like that, we defend compact. McGinn actually and Bailey could even be in there. Now, where I see Ross Barkley really working in this team is being that almost explosive pivot, I would call it. So whereas Kamara is working as a pure anchor pivot, Ross Barkley is the pivot that can receive the ball, much like Douglas Luiz done for us last season, and transition us to attack very, very quickly. And again, that will allow Maatsen to come in and play that pivot as well with Kamara and give us that extra level of defensive cover. Now, how would this look in practice? And again, this is just for me. So when we get the ball, our players disperse. Watkins will push up and try and play on the edge of the last man. Ramsey will probably float in there if he was playing that number 10 role. McGinn and Bailey go off, hug their respective wings, give us a little bit of room. Now, Kamara would be the one historically that would come in there and sit. But what if they could almost operate as a double pivot? We know that we don't like to go long generally. Martinez will be looking to play out to Carlos or Pau or even Konsa, and they're going to have a little kickabout in defence. Kamara, Barkley coming in deep to receive the ball. That's where Barkley, I think, can be at his most lethal for Aston Villa, is receiving the ball in these positions and then boom, he's off. We've seen these successful dribbles. We've seen his passes into the final third. He has Ramsey, who's going to be looking to run in, Watkins looking to run in, McGinn probably looking to cut inside, and Bailey looking to run down the wing. And then that allows Maatsen to come in there if we need to play it backwards and kind of fit into that double pivot role with Kamara. And then eventually Kamara's going to be sitting, Maatsen's going to be going out wide, and I think Barkley is going to be the one that pushes us through the pitch. And let's not forget his defensive actions are also brilliant. So when we're on the attack, McGinn's tucked in, Maatsen's gone out wide, Watkins is hanging around the edge of the box with Ramsey. Kamara and Barkley would happily, I think, be able to sit like that, with Pau probably being one of the only ones with Carlos to sit back as well. Konsa usually gets forward, Bailey, he'll be hugging the wing and looking to just absolutely rinse a man. And then when Carlos and Pau are spreading to give us some width, Kamara maybe dropping in there, and Barkley I think can operate as that double pivot as well. And defensively, we've seen his defensive actions. They've been fantastic, and he's not opposed to getting back and doing the nitty-gritty. I think it's brilliant. So yeah, I think it's brilliant. I think it's an absolutely fantastic signing. I think if Ross Barkley plays anywhere near the level that he played for Luton last year in a team like Villa, the way we set up, and the fact that we're a better team than Luton, that's just facts. We finished fourth and they got relegated. I think he could be really, really important. I don't know how many minutes he's going to get. That's the only thing I'm not 100% sure of right now. But he was so impressive to Unai Emery that Unai Emery reached out to him personally to offer him the deal and say why he should be coming back and playing for Villa next season. For that reason, I'll put it there. If he was like a little bit younger than 30 or 31, it would be a 10 out of 10. I'm going to give it a 9.5 out of 10. Genuinely, guys, trust me on this one. For £5 million, it's an absolute steal. We're getting a Ross Barkley that we've never seen at Villa Park before. A Ross Barkley that was one of, I think, my standout performance of the season for Luton last year. Up the Villa. I've got a good feeling. I've got a really good feeling. Subscribe for more. Comment down below. What do you think? Peace.